Hello and welcome to Psyched, the show where we explore psychedelics through social, economic, and political perspectives. All right, and our last speaker of the day, we have David Grillot. Sharing Your Gifts is the name of his talk, and David Grillot, based in Costa Rica, is one of the founders of the Thank You Plant Medicine movement, dedicated to ending the stigma surrounding psychoactive plant medicines and psychedelics and responsibly integrating them into society. In less than a year, Thank You Plant Medicine has grown to have over 900 volunteers and 120 organizational partners. Dave has a degree in physics and in his spare time enjoys salsa dancing, surfing, and conflict mediation. David, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Psyched.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be among such awesome people doing amazing work. I assume you guys hear me okay and can see me.
Yep,
so,
you're good.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, I would like to share with you a little bit about the journey of creating the Thank You Plant Medicine movement. It has been a really exciting ride, and there's been some deep teachings along the way, and so I want to share with you about it. A reoccurring theme has been about how we each have special gifts to share, and I think this is something we also learned through the use of psychedelics. So if you'll allow me to rewind a little bit and tell you about what I was doing before this, is that being a firm believer in the fact that everyone has gifts to share, I created a social network on which people could share things. Think of it like a couch surfing for services. So it was called Karma Tribe, and it was a generosity network where you could share any kind of service for free, request help with anything you needed, and you would get good vibes points and climb the karmic ladder when you would help people. And so I worked on it for about 5 years on the side of having a job called environmental IT consultant, which I continue to have to this day. And after 5 years of growing Karma Tribe, it grew to be in 63 countries with thousands of people using it and, offering to teach you Spanish and give you recipes and walk your dog and giving away furniture and giving, math classes, tons of stuff. But after 5 years of working on that project, I tragically had to shut it down because I was out of money. A hacker was broke into the software and was messaging thousands of people. And so abruptly last January 2019, I had to close down Karma Tribe. And suddenly I got hit by a wave of depression because I thought that this was really going to be my gift to the world. I imagined it growing to have millions of users. And I thought that, this was really what I had to offer to the world. Suddenly Karma Tribe's closed, tons of time on my hands. And I started to feel really sad, really depressed. And a friend of mine invited me to try ayahuasca, which I had never had any specific interest in, having heard horror stories and of course all the stigma, but in that context of just being at a kind of crossroads in my life and not knowing what to do, I accepted my friend's invitation. I said, you know what, I trust you. And this was my friend John, who later we went on to do this together, the Thank You Plant Medicine. So I went to the ceremony here in Costa Rica with a quite well-known shaman from Peru. And what I asked the medicine was, what can I do to bring joy and compassion and love in the world? Like, what can I do? You know, like, because I felt like I had missed my chance, and I felt like I didn't really know who I was anymore, and I didn't know what I could do, you know, to be of service in the world. And with the ayahuasca, I got my message answered to me very clearly, at least in my own interpretation of, because I felt like infinite light and love inside of myself. And what I felt was like, you have so much to give and you are just getting started, and the world needs more leaders. You have to not be afraid to step up and like speak your truth. And by connecting to that light inside of you, you can accomplish, you know, great things. So it's kind of hard to explain to people like what this did for me, but what it did was give me a very deep confidence that I had something really special to share. And a few months later, I had a public speaking gig, and I was doing public speaking for about 5 years with Karma Tribe, but now my first public speaking gig, I just like knocked it out of the park. I felt like it was 10 times better than any other public speaking gig I've ever done, because I connected with what is it I really wanted to say. What was really true in my heart. And I didn't plan it out extensively. I didn't, there was no anxiety in the month leading up to it. I just connected with what was true inside my heart. And so I rocked it on the public speaking. And so then, yeah, like a real new confidence was born. I started participating in every possible ayahuasca ceremony that I heard of, learning more and more about myself, peeling away layers, discovering my shadow side, which I was totally alienated from. And I heard about this World Ayahuasca Conference coming up, and just like perusing the website and all these speakers, and in Girona, Spain, this like ancient, medieval, beautiful town. And I dreamed of going, but it wasn't exactly in my means to, you know, pick up and go to Spain for a World Ayahuasca Conference. However, it would have it that I went to the mountains to do some magic mushrooms with some friends. And in that experience, in the middle of the mushroom experience, I met a tax accountant who we got to talking. And I happened to be in a unique case that she is specialized in. And she told me that I've been overpaying my taxes for the past 3 years here in Costa Rica. And so I started working with her. And a month before the World Ayahuasca Conference, I got $12,000 back from the government. So I was like, wow, you know, this is a sign. I'm going to Spain. So my friend John and I went to Spain to the conference, and just like drinking up the experience, talking to everyone, just seeing like what we could learn and what we might be able to contribute to the community, hearing about extraordinary stories of people healing from the worst abuse, and hearing about the studies, and listening to the indigenous leaders. And we were just like so blown away by the beauty of the community. At the end of the conference, we were in a room with Rick Doblin, you know, the founder of MAPS, and Matthew, the founder of Temple of the Way of Light, and Emily from Chacruna, and a few other leaders there. And Rick Doblin was saying that the biggest barrier to psychedelics coming more into the mainstream is the stigma and the culture, and that we should look to the gay rights movement. And by the way, gay marriage just got legalized in Costa Rica. Woo! He said we should look to the gay rights movement as an example of how a minority was able to really band together and demonstrate and, you know, work together. And then first the legislation changed in one state, and then another, and then another. Fast forward 30, 40 years, the culture has shifted. It's much more accepted in many places, gay marriage legal in many, many places, many countries. So as he was saying this, an idea started being born in my head. And I was thinking also of the Me Too movement and how this was like the most spectacular use of social media, I think, of like people just speaking their truth in unison, and it's sending ripples around the world, and big, corporate people who had been like sexual predators were fired, and like it was brought up in the United Nations and legislation changing, and it created a huge impact in the world, the Me Too movement. And I was thinking, what if we did a coming out day where everyone who has benefited from psychedelics or plant medicine, if everyone expressed their gratitude together on the same day, this could send ripples all through social media, and this could contribute to changing the culture, especially if we did it year after year and growing like a snowball effect. So I swear to you that prior to having a newfound confidence in myself through ayahuasca, I would have probably kept that idea to myself and been like, no, now's not the time. Don't raise your hand, with all these hot shots. It's, but I courageously raised my hand and I said, Rick, what do you think of this idea? And he said, this is an awesome idea. And everyone in the room said, this is an awesome idea. And then we went down to the main hall for the end of the conference, and it was a talk about ayahuasca and the future of society. And as the talk dwindled down, I was kind of like, there wasn't much action, in the talk about like action steps of what we can actually do as a community. So they said, we have 10 minutes before the closing ceremony. Does anyone want to ask us a question to the panel? And I kind of elbowed John in the ribs and I said, maybe we should suggest this coming out day idea. And he said, go for it. Go, 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 go. And I said, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure now's the time. And he said, go, go, go. So of course it helps to have friends that support you. And so I said, all right, I went for it. And, there was 1,000 people in the audience of all different, all the, I don't know, like researchers, scientists, facilitators, indigenous leaders, artists, like tons of people I highly respect. So I was really trembling, but, I trusted myself of like, no, you got a good idea here and this could really help this cause. And like Rick Doblin and all these people just validated it. So just go for it. Like it's time, go for it, David, you got this. So I suggested it to the crowd there. And I said, I don't myself talk about how ayahuasca has positively changed my life on my social media because I'm afraid of what people will think of me and what they'll say. But if we all did it together, then I would feel comfortable doing it. And, is there anyone here who would be interested to share our stories of healing together in the form of thank you? And I got it. So this got a really good response. And after my little question, I kind of stood off to the side and like 40 people came down flooding through the audience, and people throwing me their business cards from the upper balconies saying like, this is a great idea. Like I've been working with the medicine for 13 years and I haven't even told my closest family, and it's time. Like I don't want to like, hide anymore about this. And so it got a really good support. So the idea was validated. We got back to our Airbnb. I took a shower and I thought like, thank you, plant medicine. Thank you, plant medicine. This is a nice hashtag because thank you, plant medicine. It's like, I thought this would be a word that really helps destigmatize and act as a bridge towards people accepting psychedelics in general. But plant medicine, it's just like, it's from nature. It's a medicine. And I'm thank you. Like I'm grateful. So I think this really nonviolent, just expressing of your truth is very powerful. And, we've seen nonviolence movements overthrow, like Gandhi, overthrowing the British Empire with nonviolence. And so anyways, so we published a video asking for volunteers. we said, you know, we think we need 35 volunteers to engage the entire medicine community of ayahuasca users and iboga and cannabis and San Pedro and even MDMA and LSD, like everyone who has benefited from such substances, let's all express our gratitude on the same day. So we published a video asking for volunteers, and we got a ton of volunteers. We got 100 within a week. And the coming out day was 7 months later on February 20th, 2020. And so we kind of like started reaching out and building teams, and we had, you know, Team Africa, Team Europe 1, Team Europe 2, Team Europe 3, Team Asia, Team Australia, you know, 10 USA teams, 2 Canadian teams, like several Latin American teams. And so we eventually grew to have over 900 volunteers and partner up with 120 organizations. An interesting, like a criticism that we got along the way was like, you're saying this is going to be a coming out day. Like, don't you think it's a little insensitive to like appropriate this term from the gay rights movement to say like that this is like coming out, because it's, you know, it's not the same as coming out as a gay person. So we got a little bit of criticism for that, but I found it extremely interesting because John spoke about our movement at the Horizons conference in New York and kind of presenting it to people a few months before the actual coming out day. And at that talk, there was a gentleman, I think his name is Tom Limoncelli. I might be butchering his name, but he was one of the leaders of the LGBT movement in the 70s and 80s. And he was there. And he said, I love this concept of a coming out day for this, because for the LGBT movement, the thing that had the greatest impact on changing the culture of with the gay rights, you know, movement was that as soon as a person would come out to their family, you would go from having 1 voter for gay rights to having 10 or 15 voters for gay rights. The coming out was the pivotal thing as far as raising awareness. So he's like, this is a fucking, excuse my language, awesome idea. Like, I totally support it. So, you know, once we heard that, we stopped being worried about that, about using the words coming out. But so I think like this is something to do with sharing your gifts of like, you have a story of something that happened to you, an authentic, true story. And a lot of times, you know, you bottle it up inside and you don't share it because you're afraid of judgment, afraid of this, and what are your parents going to think? What are your friends going to think? But when you tell the truth, it's powerful, and it's sharing a part of yourself authentically. And especially if you tell it in a gratitude way of like, thank you for this. It really helped me with this issue. Thank you so much. You're not attacking big pharma, attacking this, attacking that, which a lot of psychedelic proponents tend to do. An interesting thing was that Lynn Marie, I don't think she would mind me sharing this story, the founder of the plant medicine podcast, plantmedicine.org, after she interviewed us, she was inspired and she decided to come out to her father, who's a very conservative gentleman. She decided to come out to him that she was now working full-time for a cannabis website, and she had a plant medicine podcast. She's actually a lawyer and a doctor. And she was afraid that telling her parents about that she was focusing on like plant medicine, that this would totally freak them out. And so for years, she didn't tell them. But she was so inspired by talking to us that she called up her dad and she said, Dad, I want to tell you, like, I'm working for a cannabis website and, you know, like making sure that everything is medically accurate. And I have a plant medicine podcast and I'm interviewing different scientists, and, you know, like the studies are showing really promising results for, you know, for PTSD and anxiety and stuff like that. And her dad was like, oh, yeah, haven't they been using these medicines for like thousands of years, like for healing, like different indigenous people? And she's like, yeah, Dad, they have. Like, wow. And he's like, I'm so proud of you. So, and she later said, this was the best conversation that I ever had with my dad. So just like this, we saw a lot of stories like this of like when people started on February 20th and beyond coming out with their stories about how they had been helped. It felt really good for them, very liberating. And it actually ended up strengthening the relationships with their family in many cases. So yeah, I don't know about you guys, but one thing that I found in the ayahuasca ceremonies and also with other psychedelics is that you tend to be able to get some insight into what your gifts are that you might be able to offer to the world. And for me, it was like, you have like the ability to take on leadership, like go for it, Dave, you can do it. They say like the longest journey you'll ever take is from your head to your heart. So I think that every person has different gifts. So I'll just finish off with a couple examples of how. So meanwhile, Thank You Plant Medicine continues to run. We had an incredible leadership meeting this morning. We have them every Tuesday morning. And what we're doing is we want to build an organization where everyone like engages in something that they feel so joyous and excited about. And I think this is really the key to like having a successful organization is like you work for something that you really love. And so for example, we decided to start doing integration circles, and I love doing integration circles. So I said, I'll lead an integration circle. So I started leading an integration circle every Thursday morning. And then this couple in Belgium who they are therapists, they always wanted to do an integration circle. So they're like, you know what? We're going to start integration circles in Belgium. So they're like super fired up and they're setting up this infrastructure to do integration circles in Belgium. Another guy who's a filmmaker who used to be on the overall like global leadership team of Thank You Plant Medicine, he said, you know what? My passion is bringing awareness in Belgium. So I'm going to step out of this role with the global team, and I'm going to start getting the Thank You Plant Medicine going in Belgium. So he has built a large organization, probably the largest psychedelics organization in Belgium now is Thank You Plant Medicine Belgium. On the coming out day, they had over 100 people present. By the way, on the coming out day, we had get-togethers in, I think, 28 cities around the world of people coming together and sharing about their stories together. And this was like in Berlin, Tel Aviv, North Carolina, like LA, Dublin, Edinburgh, London, Paris, like 28 cities. Like it was absolutely incredible. So I think that plant medicine and the ceremonial setting of support and the community, which is metaphor for the ceremonial setting, we can really help people find their gifts and express them. And just like Merrick, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but you had the idea to do this conference and you went for it, and now look what you've pulled together. Let's find our gifts, because when we express our gifts, we become so happy and so radiant, and the world wins. Everything becomes more beautiful when you're expressing your gift, when you're living out your gift. I've been doing a couple ceremonies recently with a young South African guy, And he used to always be like crumpled up in a ball, eyes closed, every ceremony all the time. And I started telling him like, hey, just try to sit up, you know, and try to smile, you know, open your eyes once in a while. And I passed him a harmonica and, you know, in one ceremony, and then I passed him a drum. And now in the last ceremony, he sang like 10 songs, and he's writing his own music, and he's picking up multiple instruments, and he's just believing in himself. So yeah, I'm really excited about the promise of psychedelics, and we can go to Q&A now. I want to invite you guys, if you haven't checked out our Facebook group, Thank You Plant Medicine Community. This is where we get together online.
David, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. I'd love to start off with a question on, you know, so you've built this incredible movement, and a lot of it has centered around, you know, this coming out on social media, posting things. I was wondering if, you know, y'all are talking internally about how do you take that energy, how do you take that passion and be able to convert that into doing something maybe in the real world, maybe picking up that instrument and playing things, building that company, starting that organization, doing whatever it is to express yourself in an even more tangible way.
I'm tortured by this question, Merrick. I'm tortured by it because I don't know like what I'm at liberty to reveal. I made the mistake of like not talking to my team. We have some incredible projects in the works that are gonna just blow your mind. But so like I totally agree with you. Like you have to bring the teachings into action. Otherwise, it's all just talk. Now, I would argue that, you know, expressing your story on social media is an action that is tangible because it opens doors for people to learn about this healing. Like, you know, you're very depressed, and then you read about your friend who climbed out of a depression through this medicine. You might not write to them. You might not even say anything to them, but then on your own, you start researching it, and this can change your life. So, but just like the integration of the experience is important, you have to bring it into action, and that's the forefront of our minds. And I'm sorry, like I don't think I can share with you like these big projects quite yet. But we're doing this. Yeah. We're doing this.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited to hear, and I'm sure that everyone here will stay updated on all of the releases and everything that you guys will be talking about shortly. The other thing that I wanted to chat about and ask about is, you know, I think there's so many individuals in this space. I don't know if you got to hear Sarah Rose Siskine's talk. She was talking about, you know, the different types of douchebags and assholes within the psychedelics movement, right? She's a comedian, had a really funny flair to it. And one of the types of these individuals that she mentioned were gatekeepers. So individuals who are creating, you know, a high bar to be able to participate. And what I really like about the Thank You Plant Medicine movement is that it pretty much completely removes that. You know, if you've had this experience, if you want to share with the world, you're capable of doing that. And I'd really love to hear your perspectives on what are other ways that we can be lowering the bar for people to be able to contribute to this movement, but still creating extremely high quality, meaningful things for it.
Oh, great question. there's so many sides to this. Yeah, like that feeling of separation and competition and like us versus them. It's a natural human thing that pervades everywhere, and it came up a lot in building our movement of people saying like, why are you bringing in psychedelics? I thought this was plant medicine. It's called Thank You Plant Medicine. Like synthetics are bad. Plant medicine is good. Other people saying like, the other way around. That's like plant medicine people are weird. Psychedelics is the only like scientifically legitimate one. And other people saying, why are you focusing on these? All drugs should be legalized. This is the only sensible, you know, strategy and this and that. But like, so I think everyone has to practice it within themselves of not reacting to this kind of attacks, you know, and just being like, you know, I love you the way you are. Like, you're welcome. You're welcome to be part of this. Like, you don't have to agree with me, but you're welcome. And this is what we tried to do, is like, everyone is welcome to it.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think this is really like what nonviolence means. It's like no barriers. Now, the barrier that really exists though is the barrier of the experience of it. It's like, once you experience it, then that's how you can really understand the power of it. It's hard
Mhm.
to capture in words.
Mhm.
But one of the things that we're doing is we're going to start weekly ecstatic dance on
Mm.
through Zoom. So, and you don't have to, it's only like really loosely related to plant medicine, psychedelics. You don't have to be tripping out to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Anyone can join. And I'm going to invite my sisters and and even my coworkers and stuff, because it's a celebration of life, and it's about like dance your troubles away, and this releasing of all your bullshit is what psychedelics is about for me. And so if we do these kind of events where everyone can participate in it, then the barrier starts to get fuzzy. And I also love the idea of doing like social impact events, like cleanups and feeding the homeless. And if all psychedelic organizations did these kind of social impact events, working with other nonprofits, then you start really destigmatizing and working together like in society. So.
Mhm. Definitely. Well, one quick thing there for the ecstatic dance parties, you should definitely look at partnering with Sarah Hashkiss. She's her platform, Me You. She's already hosting kind of these ecstatic dance parties through it, and actually all the data that they capture, movement data that they capture, is able to inform things like clinical trials, more immersive experiences to push psychedelic research further. So it's cool stuff, and can really help. I'd love to finish off with one last question. So, one of the things that you mentioned in the answer to the last one was individuals having to have this experience. There's going to be a subset of people who maybe they have, a history of schizophrenia in their family, or maybe for some reason they can't engage with any of these plant medicines or compounds. I was wondering, if you could describe, what do you see as the vision for those individuals in this movement and allowing for it to push forward? Maybe folks are conscious of the fact that these medicines can help individuals, but aren't necessarily able to partake themselves.
Yeah, well, that's a tough question, right? Because, like, for example, a car is a very powerful tool, but not every person can drive a car, right? Like, it's just not safe for every single person to drive a car. So it's, it's powerful, but there's a real responsibility in it. So, but, if a person is like stable psychologically, but just for some reason they can't partake in it, maybe they could still come in as like an angel, like a helper, a facilitator of the ceremony, and like come and play a role in helping people transform their mental health, and just be aware that no, they can't themselves take it, but they can still be part of the community, and they can still help others.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Definitely. Well, David, thank you so much for your time. It's a really beautiful story. We really appreciate you sharing.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. Love you guys.
Yeah. Be well, David. Bye bye.
See ya.